UN News.
Why you gotta make people think about pie? You gotta make people think about pie. All right, they just had a bunch of pie for Thanksgiving. You got slicing out pie wedges. That could be pumpkin or sweet potato. You know,
like... not a fan of either or of those pies.
Who are these people?
Pecan, like little pecan pie.
Wait,
hey, Steph, appreciate you for happy holidays.
Thanks for all you do. $5, thank you. Oh, whoa,
Snork for $10.
$10, thank you.
Y'all are so nice today.
You guys are really generous, so thank you.
Yeah.
We haven't even started the show really yet. But thank you both as we start the segment. So this was underreported severely. And me being a teacher, I'm like, well, you're all going to hear about it anyway. But I found a story that I think might give some significance to this in terms of the Native American community, because we never talk about them at all. And plus, it's, as I said earlier, it's Native American Heritage Month. Plus, it's also Thanksgiving. Typically, we think about the Native Americans during this time. So I think it's a good way to kind of bring those two bridges together, so to speak, in terms of current politics and in terms of a community that gets no love whatsoever. So I found this first clip from Instagram. It could have been a TikTok. I forgot who this was. Sorry. But this guy gives a brief explanation in terms of what just happened with the Department of Ed this week. And that should give you context in terms of, we're going to go into the Native American community and how they're affected. We'll go into that afterwards. So this guy will give us a general rundown of that. So you can play.
Okay. I don't think people understand what just happened, because this is one of the biggest moves the Trump administration has made, and it's barely even getting coverage. Donald Trump has officially begun dismantling the entire U.S. Department of Education. Not talking about it, not proposing it. He's doing it. Here's what they're doing, and it's insane. They're carving up the education department and shipping its core responsibilities to totally different federal agencies. K-12 education programs being moved to the Department of Labor. College and university programs, also the Department of Labor. Native American education, shoved into the Department of the Interior. Foreign language programs, handed off to the State Department. Childcare and medical education programs, dumped into Health and Human Services. This is not a restructuring. This is not a reform. This is the first real step into Trump's long-stated goal to eliminate the education department entirely. And here's the part nobody's talking about. He's doing it without Congress. They're using obscure contracts, the Economy Act, to outsource the work to other agencies behind the scenes. That way, the department collapses from the inside out without a single vote. This has never been done in modern U.S. history. A president trying to dissolve a cabinet-level agency unilaterally? That is a massive constitutional fight waiting to happen. During private briefings, officials refused to rule out moving even more, including special education and federal student loans. Yes, special education, student aid, your grants, your kids' services, all of this could be moved out of the education department completely. And remember, they already used the shutdown to slash the agency's workforce and fire employees. This is happening during chaos, while the public is distracted and they are hoping nobody notices. Whatever you think about the Department of Education, love it or hate it, this is one of the biggest federal power shifts in decades, because this isn't draining the swamp. This is dismantling the system that oversees every school district, every college student, every teacher, every kid. And they're doing it by executive maneuvering, not democracy. People should be way louder about this.
Yeah, it's not lost on me that how K through 12 is being moved into the Department of Labor.
Yes. And do you know why? That. Have you learned why? Like,
well,
there was a thing I saw about, they're also wanting to increase like school hours everywhere. Right?
Right.
And like have it over the summer and have it over the whatever. Right. This is their idea of a daycare system, right? This is school is an education. It's so that your kids have somewhere to go while you slave away to capitalism. That's
right.
That's what they're turning
But
all this into.
I think even with that, it just kind of brings back to the age when children were used as labor.
Yeah.
So it's not like during the Industrial Revolution and all that. So like, it's not lost on me that in a lot of ways that's kind of a regression. And shout out to Handsome Snake, who is Angel, who is a colleague on the network, said Linda McMahon is aiding the administration in destruction. So she's
Vince McMahon's wife.
Yeah, WWE. So obviously someone who has no right heading this up, but I can argue for basically almost every single head of the department, and not to say that many were qualified, but they all had their issues that I've had issues with.
Yeah.
But this chick in particular really has no right being there.
No, I mean, this is the type of math education you'd get from her.
I got 141 and 2/3 chance of winning.
You just get like, it's just a whole fucking stupid nonsense theater. They're literally throwing kayfabe actors into this. It's very funny.
But in a way, this kind of makes me mad again because this should be a bigger story than it is. But as I said earlier, we're all like, I see online people are crashing out over Marjorie Taylor Greene. People are crashing out over Soham and Donnie right now, and like those two are definitely like have saturated the press right now, especially given Marjorie Taylor Greene's retirement from Congress or resigning from Congress rap. Meanwhile, this is happening. And this has not gotten not really any mainstream attention as far as I saw. Yeah. So given that, and this guy who was in that Instagram clip kind of mentioned it a little bit,
right?
But this affects the Native American community. This move, as he said, that their subdivision is being moved into the Department of the Interior. And I found this story on Popular Resistance. This was written by Levi Rickert. I felt, again, 1, Native American History Month. 2, given that it's Thanksgiving and we talk about Native Americans, I felt this was very appropriate, especially what's happening now. So he writes, education dismantling ignores tribal nations. So he continues, while I get myself situated.
Yep.
As Congress weighed releasing the Epstein files last week, the Trump administration quietly announced plans to dismantle the U.S. Department of Ed, shifting programs that serve Native students to other agencies without consulting a single tribe. Call it what you want, a strategic distraction, a bureaucratic reshuffling, or business as usual for this administration. For Indian country, it's a violation of federal law. Tuesday's announcement transferred key programs that serve Native students from the Department of Ed to the Departments of the Interior and Labor, with additional programs reassigned to Health and Human Services and the State Department. This sweeping overhaul directly affects Native students at every level, from elementary classrooms to tribal colleges and universities. Yet the administration failed to do the one thing federal law and basic respect require: consult with tribal nations. I wonder the fuck would they do that, but
right.
I digress. Tribal consultation, government-to-government dialogue between tribes and federal agencies simply didn't happen. For Indian country, this is decisions made about us without us. The lack of consultation is not an oversight. It is a breach of trust and treaty obligations. It is a breach of trust. Oh, he did that twice. Once again, the federal government is making choices that will shape our children's education and our future while refusing to honor the sovereign-to-sovereign relationship it professes to uphold. The American Indian College Fund, one of the strongest national advocates for Native higher education, raised alarms about the plan this week. The College Fund noted that these programs, including the Office of Indian Education, play vital roles supporting Native students, Native Served Institutions, and the National Advisory Council on Indian Education. Moving programs is not just a matter of shifting files and staff. When authority is transferred without clear planning, without accountability, and without meaningful dialogue with the people most impacted, the risk is stark. Native students will pay the price. The federal government holds a unique legal responsibility to provide education to Native people. This obligation isn't symbolic. It is written into treaties that tribes negotiated in good faith, often ceding millions of acres of land in return for basic services, education among them. Those treaties are the supreme law of the land. But at this moment, as in too many others, the federal government is acting as if those agreements are optional.
I'm sure it's not the first time. You know?
Sure. The administration said the reorganization will improve efficiency and give states more control over school policy. But states are not parties to treaties with tribal nations. They have no legal obligation to us, no trust responsibility, and, in many cases, long histories of marginalizing Native students. To outsource federal obligations to states or to agencies unprepared to handle the complexity of Native education is not reform. It is abandonment. Even more troubling is the plan to move oversight of Native post-secondary programs to the Department of the Interior. That department already oversees the Bureau of Indian Education, an agency that struggles with chronic staffing shortages, outdated facilities, and persistent academic gaps. Adding more programs without new resources, clear timelines, or tribal input risks worsening an already fragile system. The administration's failure to consult tribes is not just a procedural lapse, it reveals a deeper disregard for Native sovereignty and self-determination. Consultation is not a courtesy. It is a legal requirement grounded in decades of federal Indian law and policy. When the government makes decisions that affect tribal citizens, tribal governments must be at the table, not informed after the fact. Time and time again, Indian country has seen what happens when education decisions are made without us. Policies crafted in Washington, distant from our communities, have produced generations of inequity, underfunding, and lost opportunities. Today, Native students remain among the most underserved in the nation. Tribal colleges and universities, institutions created by tribes to provide culturally grounded, community-driven education, operate on shoestring budgets. Many struggle to secure adequate funding year after year. The last thing they need is more instability from federal restructuring pushed through without consultation. The National Congress of American Indians condemned the plan to dismantle the Department of Ed. NCAI called the move reckless, politically motivated, and a direct threat to Native students, tribal sovereignty, and the federal government's trust and treaty obligations. Let us be clear. This is not just an administrative change, it's an attack on the fundamental right of Native students to a quality education that reflects their identity, history, and sovereignty, said NCAI President Mark Maccaro. The trust and treaties responsibilities of the United States are not optional. Dismantling the Department of Ed is a betrayal to Native nations and future generations. NCAI noted that over 90% of Native youth attend public schools, many of which rely on federal resources like Title VI and Johnson O'Malley funding to support Native language preservation, cultural education, and academic success. Eliminating the federal agency responsible for delivering and safeguarding those resources will further marginalize Native students and destabilize tribal education systems. Indian country has been clear. Any change to our education systems must be developed with tribes, not imposed upon them. Consultation is the bare minimum. True partnership is the standard tribes deserve. Until the federal government lives up to that promise, Indian country will continue to raise its voice loudly, consistently, and unapologetically. And I cannot read what that is.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
In
basically-
Windiman, that's what I'm gonna go with.
Sure. Okay. We are all related. And I think that's key in terms of, this article is kind of focusing on Native students, but this move affects all students.
Which
basically
I think
any marginalized community
the Johnson O'Malley funding titles. I could be wrong, but I think that's the Code Talkers
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So like a big deal that, you know, Navajo guys made, right? After the fact, you know. So I think I could be wrong on the specifics,
I think so.
but
yes,
I would imagine.
right.
So
but yeah, I think again it's kind of disappointing that this went. And well, one, it's disappointing that this has gone underreported. Well, this story aside, but the idea that the Department of Ed is being dismantled. But you would think that the Democrats would make a lot more noise about this, and I haven't heard it.
I'm sure they got told. You know,
I'm sure they got told, but
that's my thing about any of this, and it's stuff that I like bring up to like people, especially like these politicians are just the, you know, they just sign on the dotted line, right? So like these decisions are being made elsewhere and by corporations and, you know, like deep state, Israel, all that stuff. It's all connected, you know, but those are who's making the decisions, the real power holders in an oligarchy, right? Like, so, you know, you have to look past like that initial layer of like theater to like, okay, why is this actually happening? You know, we're putting language learning into the State Department. Why would we do that? Like, and that's what I haven't figured out. Like all these, like, of course the labor one makes sense, right? You know, it's like now we're going to turn it into daycare instead of actually giving people fucking paid daycare, which I know even Sanders talked about. Like, you want people to work, give them daycare. Like, you know, makes no sense, but clearly.
Or, you know, provide funding to schools that they can support after school programming.
Right.
You know,
that
like
too.
that, you know, one or the other. Like, you know, well, I'm talking about elementary students. Like, for early childhood, which is the field that I'm in, it's like, you know, stop making like daycare or preschool so fucking expensive. Like, you know, especially what we have. Well, Head Start is being cut as we speak, but you know, the idea that families can spend as much money as they do on health daycare or preschool, which can, for many of them, can be equivalent to like a fucking mortgage in a house. And then even then, it's like, especially for these private schools, that money is not going to teachers at all. Like they get shit pay. Like most of that money is just going to the upkeep of the buildings in order to house the kids.
Oh, wait till you get to private school fraud down here in Florida, where we've done the most cases of it. That's a whole fun thing, you know. Imagine sending your kids to a school that does not exist. Try that. That has happened, you know. Wild, but yeah, I'm just curious as to what the end game for all this is, you know, and like it's definitely going to be political football stuff too, which all of this stuff tends to be. You know, Democrats are going to run on it. Republicans are going to run on it. Same thing with ICE, which we'll cover in a bit too. But, you know, it still affects people. Like, so, and we all know, dude, teachers, and you'll get to nurses later as well. Like, since my mother was a teacher for most of her career, like, I mean, dude, she bought every bit of like stationery and, you know, like there's no funding for any of them. Books from like 10 years ago, like, you know.
Yeah. Now granted, I do get, how much did I get this year? I think I got like $300 at the beginning of well, actually I'll get that and I'll get a little bit more in the spring for supplies, but it's not a lot.
No,
like
and you're
I
like
always have.
Your age needs like all the supplies, You know,
right? Like it's not like they go through paper like candy.
candy.
Like they go through paper, they go through markers, like
Yeah,
paint,
all the crayons are broken. You know,
right.
it's like
And I'm very fortunate that I have families who have means that are willing and able to give those. But even with that, it's like basic shit, like toilet paper, like paper towels. I go through basically a roll a day or every other day.
yeah,
And like I have to ask my parents to support that because, like bleach wipes, like granted, don't necessarily have to use bleach wipes, but even then, like
yeah,
I need
disinfecting
bleach,
things and
like,
right, any
to
of
keep
that.
it right. Like I have to ask, like, again, I'm very fortunate that I have families with means that are willing to donate that stuff. But I've been in schools, like especially in low income communities where I've had to buy that. And like even at my school, granted, the student that I had last year, like, because he was unhoused, and about this privately. Like
Yeah,
I bought his snacks. I bought a lot of shit for this kid, because he didn't have it, and his mother didn't have the means to give it to him, or may not wanted to. So I was like, fine, I'll just spend my money to make sure he got, as best as I can, the basic needs that he needed. So yeah, so it's like teachers are already kind of strapped, but then like, and I'll get into this later, that and there's definitely a lot more issues around this issue that I'll definitely will talk about. But the fact that these public service or health-based programs, degrees, are now considered unprofessional, to the idea now, like, and it's mostly around loans, with the idea of like, oh well, like, we're just helping you not take out so much money, but and I'll get more into it later, but it's still the idea of like, people in public service are usually, depending on where they're at, are spending their money towards these things that are needed for the people that they're serving.
yeah.
And they're not as you're right, they're not compensated for. So I don't know how much money I've given away within the last 20 years of just school supplies, or like school related, classroom related materials that my kids needed to ensure that they had some type of normalcy and like having the things that they needed in order to learn. So, but yeah, so, it's kind of sucks that, again, thank you for the lane, folks, I guess, to be able to talk about this. But it's kind of, again, it's kind of not surprising that, you think that Democrats would make more noise about it, but they're all focused on the wrong thing. And people, even in our space, are kind of focused on not on the wrong stories, but like hyper focused on the trending stories. Meanwhile, this is happening. And we talk about how we want to take care of our kids. This is going to affect our kids. And, you would think that the opposing party would make more noise about this in the way that they kind of did with the ACA. Now, granted, the ACA is dog shit too, but you saw how much noise they made over that, given people's healthcare premiums going up. You would think that they'll also make this kind of much noise in terms of our kids' livelihoods are going to suffer given the dismantling of. And look, and to be fair, I have my issues with the Department of Ed. I do. But at the same time, it's like they do offer oversight in terms of ensuring that every child in the country is having a base level of learning and support. And we can make this argument all day long in terms of how effective the program, the department is. But the idea of dismantling it and putting in other departments that have no business, in my mind, dealing with the inequity of like the complexities of working with children, especially in my age group, I think is really disheartening.
Yep.
and being done again. This is illegal, like what Trump is doing. So, and yeah, just the fact there's no noise about it, I think is kind of pissing me.
Yep. Well, anything else you got to add?
No. Well, as I said, I'll get more into this later in my other story. Because it does connect. But yeah, that's all I got for now. But talking about stories like these, especially the not so popular ones that it's not favorable to YouTube, is why we're demonetized. So if you want to support us financially in order to keep the show going, if you're watching live, you can, or a segment or whatever, you can scan the QR code you see on your screen, or you can go to the Ko-fi link you see at the bottom of your screen, or if you're in the YouTube chat and we're live, you can type in exclamation point donate all one word, and the Ko-fi link will pop up and you can donate directly in the chat. You can also go to our description below and donate either through Ko-fi as well as Cash App, PayPal, and Substack. And obviously, we know this time of year is very hard for a lot of folks, especially with Thanksgiving and like the holidays are not basically here, and like doing a lot of preparation, spending time with your families and all that. So the free way to support us is liking, commenting, and sharing our content. Allegedly, that helps us. And make sure you leave a comment. Were you aware of how the Department of Ed is quietly dismantling, how the Trump administration is quietly dismantling the Department of Ed? And I know none of you are aware of what's happening to Native students in particular, but how do you think the decisions that is being made within the Trump administration will affect your students in your schools, in your communities, in terms of what we just read, in terms of what's happening? Again, any marginalized group, I would argue, will be affected by this in particular. So let us know how you feel about this and how you think this will affect your schools. Yeah, and I'd definitely be interested to have talks with people, especially as a teacher. So let me know. Help us get to free K. We're about, I think, around 350 to the goal. Maybe we can get there by the end of the year, early next year, perhaps. Help us out with that by subscribing and all that. And thanks for watching.